Okay, so we'll go ahead and call this to order, our April 14th meeting at 1 p.m. at the beautiful Centennial Hangar. And like to thank Robert Olaslagers for the wonderful tour and hosting us here in this beautiful facility. It's absolutely amazing. I would encourage anyone in the state of Colorado passing through Centennial to stop in and say hello. So do we have any, I don't believe we have any amendments to the agenda, Dave?
No amendments to the agenda, Mr. Chair, but it looks like we need to skip.
Let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. How's that? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. So we don't have any amendments to the agenda. So we'll go to approval of the meeting minutes of the January 25th meeting, 2021. Motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
point of clarification, I was not at the last meeting, and so
That's fine.
should I abstain from the?
No, I think, yeah. Let the record show Chaz was not at the last meeting, so since he just got approved by the Senate committee yesterday, so. Well, let's go ahead and go a round of reports. I won't put Chaz on the spot just yet. We'll start on the other end with Mark Bentine.
Nothing to report other than to again thank Robert for hosting us in this great facility. So, thank you.
Okay. Trimby,
Well,
what's going on in the pilot's world?
Well, the pilot organizations, a lot of scholarships. Emily Howell Warner Scholarship through the Colorado Pilots Association brought in, they raised a lot of money for that scholarship. Women in Aviation is bringing in the reduced oxygen training enclosure for the FAA is coming. They're going to come in August.
Okay.
So that's going to be at Rocky Mountain Metro Airport. A lot of what we do in the GA world in Colorado is all about mountain flying.
Good.
So website usage for various organizations, most of the pilot organizations, people will go to the tab on the website that says mountains, whether it be the mountain cameras, anything they can find out about mountain flying, they're going to go to it. So as far as GA scholarships, mountain flying, hypoxia training for mountain flying, and let's see, mountain aviation safety meetings, very well attended. I believe the last one we had 114 online viewers for the mountain aviation safety. Mountain pass information, the weather cameras for the mountain passes, for instance. And Civil Air Patrol for Colorado has been highly utilized quite lately with the storms, and also for the recent accident that we had. Civil Air Patrol found them, so that was a good thing. Seaplane Association has 2 fly-ins scheduled for the summer,
Okay.
and those are June 12th at Lake Meredith and July 17th at Rangeley. I think that's good. There's a Colorado Air Show scheduled for October in Fort Collins. And that
encouraging.
is all I have.
On the program for the scholarships, is that through the Colorado Pilots Association? If there's any students that seek to inquire about that, is that the best route to go, or?
Well, Colorado Pilots Association is doing the Emily Howell Warner Scholarship.
Okay.
They offered that up. But every pilot organization in Colorado has scholarship opportunities.
That's
So
great.
for anybody listening, just various websites, go to the
Excellent.
scholarship tab and get some people flying some GA.
Get that education and
Mhm.
get more pilots, right?
Yeah.
Okay, George? How's DIA? Dense.
Thank you. No, we'll take both. It's a fun debate. No, mainly I want to recognize that we sit here in early April of 2021, and right at a year ago, we were in the trough of really the worst crisis that aviation has seen. And I believe, I know Den hit, I think, 4% of our normal traffic right about this week last year. We had a runway down and more than 100 aircraft, parked there waiting. And so now we sit here, we're having really exciting air service announcements out of Grand Junction. We're seeing airlines add folks in, and our airport is busy again, and those are great problems to have. So it's really remarkable to see that. So
That's great. Yeah, congratulations. And certainly the Division of Aeronautics felt that as well. And
yes,
and so we're all excited to see things getting back to normal sooner rather than later. So, well, great. Chick?
Two things from Colorado Springs. The Forest Service firefighting pad was completed last summer and is fully operational using temporary pumping and equipping equipment. The Forest Service contractor is now on board to put up the permanent pumping facilities, retardant storage, pumps, hoses, things along that line. And that contract has been let. They're on site and expect to complete that by September. And given the forecast for this year for firefighting in the state, we fully expect that pad to get good usage. The Colorado Springs Innovation Park, which is to the south of the main airport terminal, is a major construction and economic generator that's exploding right now. The bonds the bonds for the Metro District, which is the operational entity that is managing all of the maintenance and installation of the utilities, those bonds have been issued. That function is beginning to come online using the SIB loan approved by the board and CDOT. The traffic intersection at Powers Boulevard, which is Colorado 21, and the new 4 million square foot distribution facility that Amazon has installed that will ease their traffic flow in and out of that. So that is ongoing. And the third Amazon building is under construction in that facility. The second Aerospace Corporation building is under construction. And there's another one that has a buzz name called Flywheel. Their building is beginning to go up as we speak. So there's a great deal going on at Colorado Springs Airport. And as you probably are well aware, we initiated Southwest service last month, and also United has picked up additional flights out of Colorado Springs. So our load factors are high, and our prospect for the future is looking very bright.
Excellent. Well, if you need anything else to do, let us know. Okay?
We'll try to stay out of trouble.
Remarkable team in Colorado Springs. So, thank you. Jazz, our newest board member.
Welcome.
Well, very much, Mr. Chair. I'll just tell you that I was not prepared with a Colorado Air and Spaceport update, but I will tell you that, as far as the county goes, we're working on a lot of aspects towards the Colorado Air and Spaceport. Right now, we're working on hangars, a lot of the ancillary business and surrounding land area and usage with a rail park going in and other things that we can update on a later time. I will say that I was just sworn in yesterday by the Senate. Appreciated your attendance and both the director. And, it's a pleasure to be here, and I hope to learn from all of you. And I'm very fortunate to see our neighbor, Den and DIA, and work together with you.
That's why we kept you separated.
Right.
Is that okay?
Right.
Yeah. No, that's great. It's a great example. And I think as a county commissioner and with your airport to have they're fortunate to have such an active member of the aviation community. So welcome. I believe we have, is Kent Holsinger on Zoom? Kent, do you have any Western Slope news you'd like to share?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations to Commissioner for joining us. At Glenwood Springs, I'm pleased to report that we had a victory for the airport. The city had proposed a construction project that would have significantly shortened the runway. And many pilots, many advocates reached out to the city council and to the mayor. I reached out to the airport director, the city council, and the mayor. And as an aside, the mayor's response to me was probably the most unprofessional response I've seen from a public official in my 20 plus years in public service in the private sector. So that was interesting. But the good news is the airport has come away with victory there, and we'll stay tuned. Very excited about the good news about Frontier at Durango, the new airline at Grand Junction. At my home airport, 33 Victor in Jackson County, we're very excited about the new weather cams that hopefully will be installed soon, and excited about the proposition of wildlife fencing that we'll talk about and vote about later today, given some issues we've had with antelope on the runway and some collisions with aircraft. And finally, want to just put a kudos into Leadville for their award, and wish I could be there with everyone personally today.
Well said, Kent. We always save the Western Slope the best for last. So you kind of stole my thunder on the news. The only thing I would add is Grand Junction also is welcoming additional flights with Frontier Airlines as well. So the Western Slope is going strong. There's a lot of optimism. Southwest is going to continue service through the summer out of Montrose. And I'm not sure about Hayden. I don't believe they are in Hayden, but yeah, the business and all the resorts on the Western Slope, I will tell you, at least I can speak on behalf of Telluride Resorts. It was an outstanding season, and we're very proud of everybody. I think was really busier than they expected, frankly. And so we started with having in March, at least for us at Telluride Regional Airport, it was a record, certainly a record month in terms of sales. The other thing that I would say specific to Telluride Regional Airport, we're proud to say that we're going to be the first airport in Colorado starting on February 27th, where we received our first load of sustainable aviation fuel. Ooh. And so we're not giving a choice. If you come into Telluride, you're going to get blended sustainable aviation fuel. It is a little bit more expensive, but we also believe we can get away with that, and our customers are happy to pay that premium for that service. Every truckload of blended sustainable aviation fuel is a reduction in 22 metric tons of carbon emissions. So we're quite proud of that. There are other airports that we hope that will be following suit, but we're real excited to be a part of the reduction in emissions. It's something that our community has been very proactive, and we're just glad as an airport to be able to participate in that. But that's all I have. Thank you all for your reports.
Hey, Ken,
Yes.
can I get a little do-over?
Yes, please.
Because I neglected to mention one thing that maybe the board is not aware of, or others are fully aware of, and that's the presence of an aviation aerospace middle school at Centennial Airport, Colorado Skies Academy. It's co-located with Wings Over the Rockies, right off of Runway 28. So it's a middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's in the public, it's in the Cherry Creek School District. So it's a tuition-free school. The curriculum is built around project-based learning. This year we have 238 kids, learners. We opened the school building in September, right, obviously with COVID, but we've only, for this school year so far, we've only had about 6 weeks of remote learning. All that's been because of the protocols and the way that the school is designed, we're able to host our students. And so in the process of hiring a new school director, and that's about to happen, but this is a very unique environment because it's literally inside the fence, thanks to Robert and Wings. And so these kids, when they're on recess, are watching aircraft taking off and landing on 2-8. And but a great curriculum, great staff. And if you're interested in taking a tour, just let me know and we'll arrange that for you.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank you. Glad. Okay, well, with that, let's move on to public comments. I believe we do have somebody on Zoom that would like to address the board. Oh, Jason, let's start with Jason Lacone. Are you on?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, good afternoon, members of the Aeronautical Board. Jason Lacone here from the Northern Colorado Regional Airport, and have a few items I'd like to share from the Northern Colorado Regional Airport. The first one is to just share an opinion and kind of share some information regarding the last big snowfall event that we had here in the Front Range on the weekend of March 13th and 14th. Had about 28 inches of snowfall on our airport in total during that event. And I'd like to just share that without the state surplus equipment program and those excellent airports that participate in that, including Denver and Colorado Springs and Yampa Valley, it would have been very, very challenging for us to dig out from that. We have a total of 10 pieces of equipment at the airport, and approximately half of those are derived from the state surplus program. So just really want to give kudos to the Aeronautical Board and the staff there for continuing with that and all the partnerships that they have with the airports that provide for this program. And you can see there in the video that a lot of snow fell. Had some news about our neighbor to the north that wasn't able to open up their airfield for a number of days because they just didn't have the equipment to support it, and we had such a heavy amount of snow that it was very challenging to get through without a snowblower like this that we were able to procure through that program from Denver. So really want to just stress how important that program is, and it allowed us to reopen our airport in a matter of just under 30 hours after 30 inches of snow fell overnight on the 14th. So also want to provide some additional information about our airport here in Northern Colorado. We are proud that the first multimodal bus service with United Airlines and Landline started operating on April 1st. They're providing 4 round trip runs from between our airport and Denver on a United Airlines branded bus. So that's something that's very exciting for us. We're hopeful that service will be able to go from secure to secure starting this summer. And what that means is, essentially you can go through and get checked in for your baggage and your boarding pass at the terminal at FNL, and then go to Denver, arriving at a gate just like you would in a traditional aircraft. So really excited about that multimodal opportunity in partnership with United Landline Corporation in Denver. And then I think we did hear that the air show is coming for our airport October 16th and 17th. Just want to add, we do have the Blue Angels coming, A-10 demo from the U.S. Air Force, F-16 static display, and a C-130 firefighting aircraft from the Wyoming National Guard. So a lot of really cool stuff. We're hopeful that the pandemic will allow us to move forward with this. We're highly optimistic, and we're moving ahead with the planning for that really exciting event. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Outstanding, Jason. And I just would like to compliment you on that's just an outstanding achievement, innovative achievement, partnering with United Airlines with a direct connection. That's just amazing. So I've not really heard many other airports across the United States have done anything similar to that. So just outstanding. Our next request is
Can I interrupt?
Oh, yes.
Jason, hi, it's Trippy. Tell Debbie Montgomery hi for me. But I want to give kudos to the remote tower because I fly into Fort Collins maybe 3-4 times per week. And I just want to shout out some kudos to the remote tower guys.
Thanks, Trimby. And just for everybody on the call, we did have our first full year of operations with the tower, and we were able to log just over 91,000 takeoffs and landings at our airport between May 16 of 2020 to May 15 of 2021. So a lot of activity happening in Northern Colorado, and we're glad to have that remote tower system in place.
Excellent. Any other board members have any questions for Jason? Okay. I will say just about kudos to Den. It's nice that George is on our board, and hopefully he'll take that great report back to his team at Den. I will say in my career, I have also been a benefactor of many pieces of equipment from Den. So, actually taking it all the way, and I think beating Centennial or tying Centennial for a Balkan Post Award. So I gave credit to Den on that. So, with that, let's go to our next public comment request. Mr. Brad Walker, are you on?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Let me get I like to prepare my comments because I don't sound as eloquent and friendly otherwise as you folks do. Good afternoon. My name is Brad Walker. I'm a pilot who flies out of Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. I also live in Superior, Colorado, about 1.25 miles off the departure end of runway 30. My comments today are concerning some issues that I believe merit your attention. Like I said, I live in Superior, Colorado. The majority of homes in Superior reside in a community named Rock Creek. This community has an HOA that all homes in Rock Creek are required to belong to, and the name is the Rock Creek HOA. In addition, as part of my home ownership, I agreed to a navigation easement with RMMA. Every homeowner has this easement attached to their property deed and signs it as part of their closing. About a year ago, many of my neighbors started to complain about RMMA to the HOA and asking them to get involved in restricting the operations at RMMA. As a result of this, my HOA decided to sue RMMA and has filed suit in Boulder County District Court. The basis for their lawsuit is the navigation easement is currently being violated by Rocky Mountain Metro Airport. These same citizens have started to petition the Town Board of Trustees concerning operations at RMMA. As a result, the Town of Superior has hired an airport consultant who for the past 2 years has been working on this issue. The outcome of this is Rocky Mountain Metro Airport recently started a community noise roundtable, much like the one that is being held for Centennial Airport. Currently, the noise roundtable is pushing for the implementation of a Part 150 noise study as a precursor to advocating for operational restrictions and potentially landing fees. I bring these two matters to your attention because I did not see any mention of this in the previous meeting minutes. And I will provide more details to the board via email. It's my desire this board will begin to get regular updates at their meeting regarding these issues and how they might negatively impact aviation in Colorado. If there's any questions I can answer, I'm happy to answer them. And as always, I'm grateful for the efforts, your aviation efforts in Colorado. This is the first time for me attending, and it's heartwarming to see everyone, all the good news coming about from all the different airports around Colorado. I'm sorry I have to be a bearer of bad news, but hopefully we can turn it into a positive going forward. So
yes, thank you, Brad. We appreciate giving us updates, and I'm sure please keep the division informed as progress, and Dave and their team, they're excellent at keeping the board updated on these types of activities. We have been getting news clips and reports as well. Dave has been very good about that. So yeah, it's not a lot of fun, but you know, as a community, you know, the expectation would be that all parties come together, including Jefferson County, which is the operator of the airport, to hopefully address these issues. And I think Centennial Airport can be a great advocate for the lessons learned of what they've gone through, and hopefully Rocky Mountain Metro can learn from that and hopefully be better partners. So,
yep.
Trimby, did you? Yes.
Yeah, so I also fly at Rocky Mountain Metro. I'm a flight instructor there. We have CFI meetings. Most of the flight schools do monthly. And we are taught to teach our students, climb out at best angle of climb, get as high as you can, as quick as you can, and to not fly out at best rate of climb. That said, we also are aware that there's a court date in October. And if you agree, would you agree with that, Brad?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yeah, we are aware of that. And like I said, flight schools, no, we're training our people, we're training our pilots to avoid.
I was, Brad, just to let you know, I was actually very familiar with that area. I was a former director at Rocky Mountain Metro 2 directors ago, I guess. So very aware of that and the easement and what's in place. And yeah, this is a very challenging issue. There's no question about it. And we
Agreed.
would regularly, just as Trimby supported, is we would regularly work with the flight schools, because there are about 5 flight schools out at Rocky Mountain Metro, and regularly meeting with those flight schools and being a good partner and making sure they're educated, they're not doing any practice maneuvers or what have you over Rock Creek. It's not a good idea anyway for approaches. So yep.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, and hopefully I can bring better news going forward to the board. Like I said, it's also heartwarming to hear all the positive stuff coming out from around the state. This is my first time talking to you folks, but I'm sure I'll be talking to you more. And but we are fighting a little bit of a battle up here, and trying to make something positive come out of try to make something positive happen. Let's say it like that.
Great. George.
Just one final point, Brad, I'm your neighbor in Lafayette. And also know full well from our own activities, the importance that aviation easements play in a relationship with the community. And I'll just say, I spent last summer working from home on my back porch, watching aircraft go and fight our forest fires coming right out of Rocky Mountain Metro. And I certainly heard them, but it was a real point of pride to watch them go back and forth right across there. So that's an important point.
That's a great point, George. And Brad, maybe you could confirm this, but do you think that one of the reasons why this issue has magnified so much is because of because so many people have been working from home over the past year?
Agreed.
Yeah.
I live very close to the airport. There are times when there are a lot of planes flying, and I do respect that. And I do respect that. I think that we just need to do a better job of messaging, as well as, advocating, for the airport. And the pilot community, and I don't speak to them, but I talk to a lot of people. We're trying to make some positive change, but going forward, you'll probably be hearing more from me as this develops, just because, just kind of give you a little feedback, and I'm your boots on the ground.
That's great. And then I will say you have friends too. I know for a fact our division staff have been also attending those subcommittee meetings. Is that correct?
We have.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair, our planner who's delegated to that part of the state has been listening in. We're not active participants because
no, that's fine.
Division staff, it's not our role to engage in individual airport operational issues. That's sort of outside of our mission and really our ability to engage on that. We leave that to the local airports, but we are certainly there and listening in and aware of what's going on. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Brad. We really appreciate you and look forward to, I like to say look forward to, but we will. You're always welcome at future meetings.
Well, thank you for having me.
You bet. Man, I've never heard of this next public request. Ray Beck, our former chair. Are you up?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, board members, and the Director Elaine. Thank you for letting me make a few comments. I just wanted to publicly say and recognize a couple individuals. Kenny, I want to thank you for presenting at the Club 20 policy meeting for transportation. As we all know, aviation and and roads kind of go together. It is a major part of our infrastructure. So Kenny, thank you. And I also wanted to thank Dave Ulane for his help with some of our current policy at Club 20. I really appreciate that, Dave, and you taking time to help me sort through that. We did have a meeting and it was well received, and we're taking your advice. So thank you for doing that. Kent, had a good conversation with Kent here last week, and look forward to working closer with Kent. In fact, I've invited him to our next policy committee meetings in July to do a short presentation, and he's accepted. I just got to get him the time and the exact date for that. So thank you all for what you do and consistently do. I hear a number of great comments from Club 20 members on aviation. And as we all know, aviation is a great economic driver for the state of Colorado and our local communities. So again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. It's good to see all of you again.
Thank you, Ray. It's great to see you, and we're happy to participate. Our last request is Kelly Sloan.
Hi, thanks. Kelly Sloan here with Colorado Aviation Business Association and also the Colorado Agricultural Aviation Association. I just wanted to give a quick legislative update. First and probably most important is we have got started in the state legislature this year, General Aviation Caucus. We're going to have our first meeting next Wednesday at noon. I think Dave is going to be presenting at that, along with Chris Swathwood from CABA. The chairs are Representative Alex Valdez from Denver, who is a pilot, and whom Ken and Dave met with yesterday when they were at the Capitol. And the co-chair is House Minority Leader Hugh McKeon, who used to be a pilot. He can't afford it anymore, but he has been long involved with aviation and a huge supporter of our industry. So we're looking forward to that and having some good educational opportunities at the state capitol for legislators, particularly those, obviously those who are interested in aviation or who have a tie to aviation, but probably even more importantly, those who don't know much about aviation would like to get acquainted with it. So we're looking forward to that over the next few years. In terms of bills we're watching, I'll just go over a couple really quick. We were supporting House Bill 1177, which strengthened our flyaway exemption. When the bill was written, it simply said the exemption applied to sales tax of aircraft. When they wrote the bill, they didn't include the corresponding tax exemptions, use, storage, and consumption. So this is kind of a cleanup bill that took some of those older tax exemptions that didn't have that language in there and put that language in there. So it includes use tax exemption, which I think, from hearing from our members was pretty important to make sure that was included in there. So that did pass both chambers, passed the Senate last week, and we're going to send thank you notes. It was Representative Lynch and Representative Don Valdez in the House, and Senator Moreno in the Senate. So we'll be sending thank you notes to them. Couple others we're watching. There's an employment discrimination bill, has a section in there concerning employment medicals and some limitations on those. We've heard some concerns from some of our members. The one requirement is that a medical can only be performed after an offer of employment. Some of our guys are saying that may impede with some of the FAA regulations that the flight medicals have to be done before you do an offer of employment. We're looking into that. There was also a provision that the medical information couldn't be shared with third parties, which may have created a bit of an issue with you being able to have on demand flight medical certificates. There was an amendment put into the bill to correspond with federal regulations on that note. So we're just keeping an eye on that one. Number of environmental bills we're just keeping an eye on as well. Senate Bill 200, which gives pretty broad authority to the Air Quality Control Commission to regulate greenhouse gas. We're just keeping an eye on that to see what, if anything, they intend to do with aviation. A lot of that's going to be in rulemaking, which we'll be following after the expected passage of that bill. There's also a benchmarking bill, hasn't been introduced yet, but it's coming quickly. That will require buildings of a certain size. I believe right now they're looking at over 50,000 square feet gross square footage to collect basically benchmarking data on energy use and emissions, and to comply with reduction goals. We think that is going to include hangars. We don't think there's an exemption written in there right now, so we're looking on that, speaking with the bill sponsors, and seeing how that might impact airports and hangars. Sort of outside the building, we are working on, as Mr. Walker had mentioned, we do have the issues at RMMA. CABA is keeping a close eye on that. We've been involved as an observer on the noise roundtables, and been working with county commissioners to let them know our concerns. We're also organizing some tours of airports for legislators and for county commissioners. Obviously, RMMA is one of the first ones we're going to work on. We have some new state legislator up there, Representative Doherty, who replaces Representative Kraft Tharp. She's excited about seeing the airport. She's never been out there, so I think that'll be a good opportunity for her. Also Centennial, and I think we're going to be working on some tours of DIA as well. So if any airport operators out there want to help organize a legislative tour of your airport, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help organize that with your local members and our GA caucus chairs. The CABA did get tangentially involved in the Glenwood Springs issue. We did speak with Senator Rankin and Representative Will. I know Representative Will reached out, sent a letter to Mayor and Town Council. So we're happy to see that come through the way it did. And just on the federal level, right now, mostly we're kind of looking at the Negoose bill, which is still kind of floating around out there, which would provide more local control over airports, which of course we have some concerns over. NBAA is watching this as well, so is AOPA. And if there's any developments on there, we will certainly let you know. So that's, and we are working on also looking at the possibility of statewide real estate disclosures for airport proximity. And just real quick on the CAAA side, ag aviation side, most of what we're looking at this year is more agriculture related. There's some agriculture, an agricultural labor bill. We are going to be probably revisiting the tower marking for radio towers and broadband towers and like next year, given that there have been some collisions. Mostly something that we can get in place while we're awaiting FAA rules to be promulgated concerning tower marking. So that'll be for next year. And on the seaplane side, we're supporting a couple ANS bills that are out there, aquatic nuisance species bills that strengthen those requirements, and just trying to educate a lot of the new members. We have a lot of new members, so that's about all I have there. Happy to take any questions, and again, want to thank the board and the division for all you guys do for aviation.
Excellent, Kelly. One correction, Representative Tracy Kraft-Tharp absolutely has visited our MMA, and she's a great ally. She does get it, and she's a great representative.
Yeah, Kraft-Tharp has. It's her replacement. She's now commissioner.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Lindsay Doherty is the new state representative.
Okay, excellent. Okay, any questions? All right, well, thank you for all your work out there. It was great to walk around, and thank you for taking us around and introducing us to some legislators yesterday. So thank you, Kelly.
Happy to do so.
Okay, has there been any last minute requests? Okay, then let's go ahead to the director's report. Director Elaine.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that. Just a few things to share with everybody this month. First of all, I'd like to say how cool it is. This is our first in-person meeting we've had since January of last year, and it's really cool to get to see y'all face to face, and hopefully we'll be able to have public joints in person soon too. So anyway, nice to see y'all way over there on that side of the room. So.
Yeah, George is a lot taller than I thought.
Say that again.
I was just amazed. I remember where my jacket was. So anyway, thank you. But, just a couple of things really quickly. I want to point out that the Leadville Lake County Airport was awarded an Best in Colorado Asphalt Pavement Award from the Colorado Asphalt Pavement Association. Every year, CAPA recognizes outstanding asphalt paving projects across the state. Constructions, and then they have an airport category. And we were extremely excited to see that they were bestowed last month with the outstanding airport project. So thanks to CAPA and our own Scott Story, who's not here with us in person, but Scott is part of the airport judging team and traveled to many airports around the state to do that. So he's not here in person, he's on the call. But anyway, congratulations to Leadville and their contractors for that great award up there. One of the things I wanted to share with you all that as we replenished our stock of windsocks was, I'm not sure you all know about our windsock program. This is a kind of a cool statewide initiative we do. It's not big enough to have its own budget, but I want to let you all know what we do. Every year, our staff goes out and we buy in bulk a bunch of airport windsocks of different sizes. We get them for cheaper than an individual airport could. And then as our staff is out and about doing airport inspections and pavement inspections, we deliver windsocks around, because when you're a pilot and you're looking for wind information, you want to see the windsock on the left, not the one on the right. So just want to let you know we've replenished our stock, and as we get back into spring this year, Caitlin and Todd and the team will load up on windsocks as they go around. And we've never had any get quite that bad. I want to say that was one I hopefully we got to before that. But
Is that windsock on the right actually from Wyoming? Come on, that's not Colorado.
Well, no, that one is. If it was from Wyoming, Kenny, they come out of the box already.
And they're
extended.
chained.
Yeah, exactly. They're chained. Having run an airport in Wyoming, the windsocks come in the box. Anyway, just an interesting thing we want to let you all know of, that it's kind of an interesting program we do. It's a little under the radar, but we thought we'd talk about it a little bit today. So one of the things you'll see on the agenda this month is I added a new agenda item called industry updates. You know, from time to time over the last many years, we've heard at various meetings from different people out in the industry doing great things. This month I had 3 that I've had contact with over the last many months that I thought you all would get a lot of interest in hearing from, and the folks that tune in. One of the things I'd like to visit with you all on is maybe adding a standing agenda item for meetings going forward. It's called industry updates. Maybe we have none if the meeting agenda is huge or we don't have anything, but there's a lot of cool things going on in aviation around the state, from education to technology to sustainable aviation fuel we're going to hear about today. So if you're all amenable, we might try to work in at least one industry update from somebody every meeting, a short update on what they're doing, because there's
Great
unbelievable the cool stuff going on out there. And you're going to hear some really great stuff today. So,
excellent.
Good. We'll continue to do that then going forward. Sean is continuing to work on a really cool project as a follow-on to our 2020 Aviation Economic Impact Study. He is in the process of producing a short 3 to 5 minute video to kind of put sort of a personal touch on that report that we did last year. I know Den has used it widely. All of our airports have used that product we put together quite significantly, but you know, we like to tell our story with more than just handing you a report. And so Sean's going to be putting together this great video. He was in Telluride last week, meeting with Kenny, getting his take. Kenny's airport is one that will be featured in this video that he's going to put together, and we're really excited. We'll have the debut rollout of that at CAOA in June, coming up here at our next meeting on June 10th. So stay tuned for that. Sean always does great stuff, and we're excited to see what he comes up with. The last thing I'll talk about really quickly from the division perspective is our 2021 strategic plan. We talked about this at our January meeting. We are kicking that off right now. Staff is in the process of going through our current plan and updating all the technical information about the division to make sure it's current. And we've got new board members since then. We're getting all of that put together. We had our initial meeting on April 2nd to kick that off. Just like we did last time with that strategic plan, we're going to have a stakeholder group sort of help us put that together. And just like last time, that will include Ken as the chair from the CAB, Brad Elliott, who is the current chair of the Colorado Aviation Business Association, Dave Rupel, who's the director of the Colorado Air and Spaceport and the current president of CAOA, will represent CAOA. Marty Brophy is the president of Colorado Pilots Association. He'll be representing CPA's interests. And then John Bauer, who's the manager of the Airport District Office for the FAA here in Denver, will be on there from the FAA. So we're really excited about this. I know this is new for a lot of our board members, but you know, comes down to this. We know state statute says we have to send out fuel tax disbursements, and we know we have to have a grant program. We know we have to work on aviation safety and education. You guys all have a lot of latitude on how we do that. So the strategic plan that we did in 2018 was a really valuable tool that helped us focus our resources financially and staff doing the things that you all expect us to do that move us forward. We've completed almost all of the objectives in that initial plan. We decided some of them really weren't good ideas at all. And now's the time to update that. That's sort of our time frame, is every 3 years is updating that strategic plan. So over the next 6 months, we'll look to updating that with the goal of having you all adopt that at the meeting in August is our plan. So we'll certainly bring you updates every month in the non-meeting months, and we'll keep you updated at the meetings. But it's been a great tool, and it really has also helped us document what we've done. Weather cameras were a perfect example of something that came out of the strategic plan that we might not have thought of otherwise. Well, we might have, but anyway, it's a great tool for us and for you and for our stakeholders. So with that, the last thing I'll touch base on is our next meeting is going to be in Telluride on June 10th. That's a Thursday, in conjunction with the Colorado Airport Operators Association meeting. They always have their winter conference here in Denver in January, but the spring conference is always moved around the state. It's supposed to be in your neck of the woods last year, Kenny. That didn't happen because of COVID. Obviously, we didn't travel, but we're excited now. CAOA has confirmed with us this week that they will be moving forward with an in-person meeting. So we're planning on doing our meeting in conjunction with that. So we're excited to be there. It's always great to get to meet the airports. And Kenny, maybe you can speak to it. I understand there's going to be awesome turnout. There's a lot of interest. People are eager to travel and meet face to face, right?
Yeah, excellent. I think that number one is, I think first want to congratulate and thank. We have a tremendous list of sponsors. All of our aviation partners have actively participated. It was, I think it was in March, we pretty much felt like we had every slot filled. And we're doing something a little bit different this year, is we're actually having an evening event. In the past, we didn't. That means all of us are getting together. And I think how appropriate to have our first meeting in person, networking, and really just collaboration with our peers finally. I think people are really anxious to finally get together. So everyone's welcome. I would also say that think about bringing your family and enjoying the beautiful mountains of Southwest Colorado, the San Juan Mountains. So there's just so many things to do. Bring your mountain bikes, bring your road bikes, bring motorcycles, four-wheelers, whatever you want to do, but not just be there for the conference, but really enjoy the Colorado mountains. So you bet. We're looking forward to it.
Awesome. So for you board members, in front of you in your packet is a survey of what your plans might be for that conference. If you just want to come for the day or you want to come for the entire conference, if you could let us know that, hopefully today, get that to Caitlin. She will make all the logistical arrangements like hotel reservations, get you registered with CAOA. I would say that I very much appreciate CAOA gives us a very beneficial registration rate that really allows our entire staff to attend, as well as all of you, for very minimal cost. So thank you to Kenny. I know you're not on the CAOA board anymore, but I'll thank you, George, to your constituency and the airport side for making that happen, because that will allow us to bring our staff to that conference. So any questions about that? Caitlin is your logistical travel concierge. She would be happy to help you with anything you have related to Telluride in June, but we're excited to see y'all there.
Great. Thank you, Dave.
Just a couple of other things coming up, looking way down the road. Again, in August, we won't have our next meeting after June until August. That's typically done at the end of the month, and that's a little bit of it's really our biggest meeting. We have our full day staff board workshop on August 24th at our division offices out at Colorado Air and Spaceport. And then the following day, we'll have our regular CAB meeting. And again, for you newer board members, it's just a chance for us as staff to connect with you as board members, make sure we're on the same page. We run through routine things, ideas, just brainstorming. It is open to the public. It's not a formal meeting. We don't take action, but it is open to the public because it is a noticeable meeting. But it's always been a great opportunity for us to make sure we're on the same page between us and you. So we'll look forward to that in August. And that's it, Mr. Chair.
All right. Excellent. Well, Bryce, how about a financial update?
All right, thank you, Chair Mampa. Again, I'll be going through the financials here at any time. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me for more information. So our first slide, we'll look at revenue. January revenue came in at 1.6 million, bringing our total for the year just under 10.9 million. Since that was the end of the third quarter, we're updating our FY21 revenue forecast from 14.5 million to 17 million. Just based on latest trends at Denver, increasing jet fuel prices, we're starting to see that revenue pick up, which is a good thing and was expected. So this will be our final adjustment to the FY21 revenue forecast. As you all know, our fiscal year ends at the end of June. Breaking down the revenue a little bit, the 1.6 million was 124.9% of forecast, which was 1.3 million. In comparison, that was 90% of the 1.8 million for March 2020 and 105.8% of February's revenue. For April, we are forecasting 1.6 million in revenue. Of note, we're going to begin referencing 2019 numbers in future months, just to give an idea of what a normal cycle would have looked like as we get into the months where COVID was fully impacting the aviation industry in 2020. So as a comparison, March 2021 revenue was 73% of March 2019's 2.2 million in revenue. As you all know, revenue continues to be impacted by COVID-19. Forecasting year to date, we've kind of trailed Den kind of as they've recovered, but we had mentioned for about 6 months here that once March hit, we were going to forecast a 25% decrease to those 2019 numbers. As you saw above, that came in at 73%, so right close to kind of how we're using that modeling. So we'll continue to use that as things change as far as recovery rates, specifically at Denver, but really system-wide. We'll continue to update you of any changes we have to how we are forecasting our revenue. But again, revenue is lagging like we expected, but it's not all bad news, as you'll see on our next slide here. Okay, so our cash balance for March ended up at a little under 9.5 million. This was up 182,000 from 9.3 at the end of February. Our April month-end balance is projected to decrease to around 9.2 million. The increase outpaced our projected balance of 9.1 due to a combination of factors, primarily vendors at Denver catching up on past filings, as well as we're seeing those increases to oil and jet fuel prices. They're starting to kind of hit the numbers a little bit quicker than usual, but that's not a bad thing. So we ended up a little more than we thought. It'll likely dip down again next month, but even as you can see here from this graph, through COVID and everything we've dealt with due to steps we've taken at the division and y'all have approved on the board, we are in a very, very healthy cash balance system. So revenues are down, but our cash is staying steady, and we have the flexibility as things recover to react to that quickly. So good news on that front.
So that number on the underneath is actually 19 fiscal year, not 09, right?
09 is the month in the calendar.
Gotcha,
So it's the
gotcha.
9th month.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, that's all current fiscal year numbers.
Got it.
Mr. Chair, if I might, before Bryce moves on, I want to make a comment on this slide. If you look back, this is the heart of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I really want to give a shout out to our division team and Bryce and Todd and the planning staff. In our division's 30-year history, we've never had an impact like this to our revenue, and we navigated it successfully, and our revenue stayed robust. We still did great grant programming, even though it was lower. But I just want to give a shout out to our team that had their eye on this ball and kept us way in the black during a time that we never could have imagined before. So kudos to Todd and Bryce and everybody on the aeronautics team for keeping that balance robust I mean, I've been around the industry 32 years, and even 9/11 wasn't quite like this. And so from a financial perspective.
And even from the adjustment for the budget for this
So
fiscal year is outstanding.
Team is fantastic, great to make that happen. So
yep.
Bryce, thank you for that.
Yep, thank you.
Just a little speed bump, that's all it was.
Yep.
Little.
Yeah.
Okay, our next slide just looks at the tax expenditures by month. For the month of March, we had right around $1 million in expenditures. Sales tax, as always, was the big chunk of that with 873,000. being dispersed back to airports. There's 129,000 of excise taxes from Avjet dispersed back to airports, and 8,000 from excise for avgas dispersed back to airports. They continue to follow the normal cycle, being 1 month behind revenues. Our next slide here is our contingency slide. I know sometimes we kind of skim through this because it doesn't change a lot. You will notice if you compare to last month's, the blue line is a lot closer to that total orange line. As long as we're above it, that's projecting well. The reason it has tightened up so much is actually good news. As we talk about how we're going to be able to react to changes coming up, we are already showing, and you can kind of see it on the yellow line on there, our next year grant program. We have bumped our forecast up for that. That is not an official number for any airports listening, but our forecast of that up to 5 million. And then for the out years, which really impact this as well that you can't see, we've already bumped it up on a forecast perspective to 8 million. So it's a little tighter this month because we typically just kind of show it flat, but we really wanted to show that we are projecting the increase in our CDAG program. Again, unofficially, and those get tweaked as we set all the other levels, but we are already starting to kind of ramp up our aggressiveness in what we're forecasting we're going to be able to do in future years. And we're already seeing a healthy balance as we look towards that. So a lot of good news as it comes to this. We're showing that a little earlier in the year than we typically would, but with COVID going on, we wanted to make sure that we had this out there so that the cab isn't seeing it and for the first time in our workshop in August, just to know that we are prepared to increase our CDAG program in the future. Again, we'll keep tweaking that as recovery happens, but right now, again, more good news as far as this goes. Next slide just shows our admin expenses. As you know, we have a mandated 5% cap of our previous year's revenue. So that's at 1.32 million. The budget the cab approved in January 2020 was 1.28. Currently, we've only spent about 754,000 on admin in FY21. Our projected expenditure will be about 1.05, which will be about 3.94% of FY20 revenue when it's all said and done. So we will be well below the statutory 5% cap. And then just a reminder, the board has approved back in, I believe, the December meeting. Next year, we'll be kind of recalibrating how the admin expenses are calculated, just to align us more with other state governments and specifically other governments within CDOT. So I will break those down in future meetings, but just so we're aware that that change will be coming once we roll into FY22. And next slide shows Denver fuel flowage. Flowage in Denver in March was 25.8 million gallons. That was up 121% from February's 21.3 million gallons and down 12% from March of 2020. The forecast for April flowage is 29.2 million gallons, which would be obviously a massive increase from what it was in April of 2020, as George referenced earlier, when there was not much happening anywhere across the country in aviation. So a real big jump there expected as we start to get back to a normal cycle. As you can see from our 2018 and 2019 graphs, typically fuel flowage follows a very consistent month over month trend line. It'll be interesting to see how closely that is followed here in 2021. And we will continue to kind of monitor how that's tracking and adjust our forecast as necessary with the latest information as we come out of the pandemic, so we can get back to a normal cycle. So again, the news is good. It's trending the right way, where a year ago we were shaking our heads, and this year we're pretty optimistic with the way it's going to go. And our final slide just kind of breaks down the expenditures for the division. We had about 1.2 million in expenditures in March. About 1 million of that was from the airport tax reimbursements, which we referenced earlier. We also had drawdowns, about 136,000 from the CDAG program. And we anticipate that portion will start ramping up again here as construction season hits and airports look to close out grants prior to the state fiscal year end in June. So a little larger piece of the pie than usual for the tax disbursements, but that's just because the CDAG drawdowns were low, as it typically is in this quarter. But other than that, that's the end of the financial update. I'm happy to answer any questions, but as I keep reiterating at these meetings, we remain in an excellent financial picture, both for the present and the future.
Anybody have any questions? Board? Okay, excellent. George, I would just kind of, not to put you on the spot, but I mean, is Den pleased with the, let's call it more aggressive rebound that's happening right now?
Yeah, so we talked about this at the last meeting, but because of our domestic network, we've been able to lead the country out of this. But I believe we were the third busiest airport in the country last year. And, you know, but what we're seeing, what I'm seeing anecdotally is that people are aggressively ready to get back and enjoy spring break and start traveling again. So I think there's good news ahead. We're feeling good.
That's great. That's great. Excellent. Nice presentation, Bryce, and good job overall with the team. So thank you.
Thank you.
With that, let's go to an action item, the second round, Todd, on the Colorado Discretionary Aviation Grant.
I will actually go next after Kate.
Yeah.
Caitlin?
I was gonna nudge him.
Sorry, administrative new intern grant update. Sorry. Jump that.
Very important stuff. So
Yes.
for the 4 of you that are new to the board, since we've had anything like this, administrative grant updates are things like a term extension for a contract that needs a little bit more time than was initially on their contract. The first one on your memo is for Aspen. They need 1 additional year to complete their project. That will also have some scope. We're going to pull back on some of the scope. So we're actually going to spend less on that grant than we initially had, but they're going to take another year to get that done. So that's the first one. The second one is for an intern. The intern program is approved every January when we approve the fiscal year statewide initiatives. So the 2021 fiscal year interns were approved in January of 2020. So Colorado Springs has requested an intern. Actually, they have 2 interns that they've requested. They've had an amazing intern program similar to Centennial's here. They're utilizing them for maintenance, operations, properties, and development. And the Springs offers pretty unique opportunity for the development and properties spot on an airport that a lot of other airports would not allow or have the bandwidth to handle. So they will have 2 interns. They max them out locally at 1,500 hours, and they've taken the max amount we'll allow, which is $20 an hour, of which the division will pay $10. So that's the other one. So no action needed on either. It's more of a FYI, so you know where interns are around the state and anything else that's going on.
Outstanding.
We'll keep you posted.
Is there a specific reason why Aspen needs another year?
They're having a hard time nailing down exactly what's going to happen with this specific project. So they get 3 years to do it.
Okay.
They are contractually bound by no more than 5 years as a state thing.
Right.
We've given them 3, they need 1 more.
Okay. Thank
you. Yep.
Great. Thank you, Caitlin. Sorry, I skipped you. Very important. Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So usually at our annual April CAB meeting, I'm usually bringing grant applications for you for our federal match program. So as with COVID, everything seems to change currently. So instead today, we are bringing a different round of grants to you. So back a month ago was the American Rescue Plan was approved, which provided 100% federal funding for all of the federal projects planned in our airports this year. So usually we have about $2 million in state funds planned for those federal match projects, because usually you have 90% federal funding and then 10% state, 10% local. That's usually how we set it up. And that usually accounts for about $2 million of state funding each year for that federal match aspect. And actually last year we had this very similar conversation. We had planned on some federal match projects, and again, there was an act passed that allowed for 100% federal funding. Last year, we as a staff kind of made the recommendation to this board to say, we don't know what COVID really looks like at this point. So instead of finding a way to spend that $2 million, let's actually put that $2 million back in our fund for protection for future grant programs. So This year came along exactly the same way. They came in at 100% federal match. So instead, this year, instead of putting that money back into our aviation fund for future projects, we are hopefully nearing the end of the pandemic. And so we're actually looking to just move those funds to other projects. And what worked out really well is, so as we kind of the first time we saw that Congress was looking to add this 100% federal match back in, the planning staff started coming up with a contingency plan on it. If that happens, what should we do with that $2 million? And so as a staff collaboratively, we came up with a way to bring forward most of the projects that were actually delayed due to COVID reduction revenues. And so with that, we're actually bringing another 10 state and local projects to you for consideration today. What's kind of cool about this program, these 10 grants, half of them are pavement maintenance, and you'll see that very common for us. A lot of our state and local projects are mostly pavement maintenance. We do have one snow removal equipment project, 2 fuel farm projects, an airfield fencing project, and an airport plan project. So again, we were really excited to be able to use these funds. And then with that contingency slide that Bryce showed you as well, we have this already covered with our revenues as well. So that's really good to be able to say. And so these 10 grants, along with the 4 grants we awarded in January, will bring our total up to $2.86 million in grants given out this year. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about any of those 10 airport applications. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions? Okay, well, do a motion to approve the second round of the 2021 state and local grant applications totaling $2 million. I will say I will abstain on the, when I vote, I will be abstaining from the TEX grant, remove myself from that. So looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I offer the motion that we approve the state and local grant funding at level 2 that Todd has just outlined.
Outstanding. Second.
Second.
Mark. And
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Yes. I'll need to abstain on the 33 Victor portion of the grant funding as well.
Excellent. So let the record show Kent is abstaining from the 33 Victor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chair, before I move on, just one quick note. There was one project that we did not have the funding to continue with, and that was the roughly $3 million grant we had originally had programmed for the runway rehabilitation project at the Creed Mineral County Airport. We're going to try to pull that forward next year if our funding allows. There may be some benefit to doing that actually, because we've learned that CDOT is planning a significant rehabilitation of State Highway 149, which goes right by the airport. So we're going to reach out to our CDOT counterparts and see if there's not a way we can leverage a little bit of savings there by maybe trying to have that contractor work with Mineral County. Of course, we don't do the procurement ourselves, that's
Yes.
the county, but we've done that successfully many years ago in other small communities. So we may look to see if we're able to do that and maybe save on some mobilization.
And that's
costs
in the
for
next
project.
fiscal year?
For next year, yes. Sir.
Okay,
So,
excellent. That's a
we'll see
great
how that
point.
goes.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your work. And I know Tex is absolutely delighted.
Absolutely. No, it was great to have a plan quickly be able to be put together to use this fund. So, and what was great is this April meeting worked out perfect for it. And a lot of these projects actually still should be able to be completed this summer, which is great. So that money will be spent. It'll help us actually help the CIP in future years. So thank you very much.
Okay, excellent.
Now I know why you said I was tall.
So we'll go to the division out-of-state travel plans.
Not nearly as exciting, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, but every April, staff brings to you all a recommendation to approve our division's next fiscal year professional development and out-of-state travel plan. Needless to say, we didn't do any of that this year. Anything we did was all virtual, so nobody went anywhere. But anticipating that some of that will at least come back this next fiscal year, we have presented before you the fiscal year 22 plan that totals $12,600. And as you'll see on the attached list of development opportunities and travel, the vast majority of that is for the Federal Aviation Administration's Regional Airports Conference in Seattle. They did not hold that even virtually this past year, but that's historically been the most valuable thing that we have the opportunity to go to and meet face to face with the FAA and our peers from around the region, learn what's going on with FAA. So we have programmed that back in for next year, hopefully with the chance that the FAA will move that forward. So I would also point out again, just as a reminder, and this is true for our new board members, that under CDOT's broader travel policies and their directives, you all are the only approval authority for our travel plan. It used to have to go through a bunch of different approvals, but as long as you're not sending me to Paris for the air show or something like that, once you approve our plan, we're good to go from a CDOT perspective. I would point out that is still significantly less than what a normal year would look like, which is in the $25,000 range for conferences. We're also saving a little bit of money this year because the NASEO annual conference that we would normally send 2 or 3 people here is going to be at Colorado Springs. So
excellent.
That'll be great. So staff is requesting the board's motion to approve the division's FY22 professional development and out-of-state travel plan totaling, and I'm sorry, I misspoke, $16,150, not $12,000, $16,150.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, motion.
So move.
Chip.
That the board approve the professional development increase to $16,150.
All right, seconded.
Second.
Second, Chaz. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, there's your travel plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let's look over, we have a great presentation on the industry updates, sustainable aviation fuel briefing, Mr. Chris Wilcox.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll introduce Chris if I could. I had the great privilege of chatting with Chris here a couple of weeks ago about GEVO, which is a company based right over here on the other side of Centennial Airport that's developing sustainable aviation fuels. Of course, Kenny, you talked a little bit about that just a little bit ago, but after chatting with Chris and learning a little bit about what GEVO is doing to expand the availability of sustainable aviation fuel across the globe, I thought it would be interesting to hear from Chris and learn a little bit about what they're doing. So Chris, I will turn it over to you if you're on.
Yeah, I am. Hey, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on here, and it's been fun listening in a little bit. It's my first meeting attending. So yeah, thanks guys for having me on, and also want to tip my hat to Kenny and the folks there in Telluride for bringing sustainable aviation fuel to the airport there. And it's a good thing. So I guess David asked me if I wouldn't mind talking. I only got a couple of minutes prepared here, but happy to open it up for questions as well. But GEVO, we are. Do I control the screen, or should I?
Sean Sederberg talking. Just go ahead and I'm going to be in control of the slides, so just let me know when you're ready to move on to the.
Yeah, I guess if you want to click down to the 4th slide, that'd be fine. And then the next one. So GEVO, we're headquartered here in Denver. We've been making sustainable aviation fuel for about 10 years. We've got a plant down in Texas. We've got another plant up in Minnesota, and we're in the process of building out a large facility in South Dakota right now as well. We've kind of flown on just about everything at this point. We've flown on military craft and commercial airlines and general and business aviation. We've done projects all over the world, at airports all over the world. And we've been pretty well represented. So what I wanted to do here when I talk about kind of sustainable aviation fuel is to kind of take a step back, and because when people hear like renewable fuel, I guess that the common thought is ethanol. You think ethanol, and then you think, well, ethanol is inferior to gasoline, and it's a sustainable aviation fuel is a like molecule. It's identical, and all fuels that end up on wing, they've been qualified through an ASTM process. Our pathway, and GEVO's pathway to get our fuel qualified, it took us about 5 years, cost us about $50 million, and we had to produce a lot of fuel in order to do it. We flew on every major aircraft engine manufacturer rig, GE, Pratt, Whitney, Rolls-Royce, we went through, a lot of testing and data. And, at the end of the day, I mean, the fuel is a like molecule. So it works great. There's no question about, the fuel from a safety or compatibility perspective. What I tell people, you ought to feel good about the fuel when you're getting on a plane, because the amount of scrutiny that, goes into it is, it's pretty thorough. So anyway, if you wouldn't mind clicking to the next slide. When I talk about fuel as well, I mean, in order to kind of drive home that point of, it is a like molecule. In our instance, not only does our fuel kind of meet kind of typical jet fuel specifications, but it also exceeds, some of those specifications. So, I mean, our freeze points are off the charts, which has been, proven to be something of interest to folks, particularly, military folks that are flying flights at high altitude, over the poles. We've got, slightly higher energy density than, typical petrojet, no sulfur, no hits on Jeff Todt. So we've got a really nice, high quality fuel. And it's, it's not just GEVO fuel, but the bulk of sustainable aviation fuels that are available, have some of these improved properties as well. But, we don't really, I don't know that they're marketed off of that. They're more marketed from their low carbon perspective. And so when we make fuel, when we're producing fuel, there's a couple of things that to keep in mind. And Kenny had mentioned down there in Telluride how much carbon savings per truckload you're seeing. So there's a couple of ways to achieve carbon savings. The first one is by the feedstock that you're using for your fuel. We utilize a very low carbon corn as our feedstock. Not all corn is produced the same, just like not all electricity is produced the same. Some of it comes from coal and some of it comes from solar. Well, it's the same thing with our corn. We work directly with the farmers. We have processes in place to drive down the carbon intensity of their farming, precision agriculture, precision fertilization, satellite monitoring, all of these things, which dramatically drive down the carbon inputs of our feedstock. And then we partnered with a company, a technology and nutritional provider that takes the corn, and they actually do a specialized dry fractionation process where they're able to extract the protein, the bran, and food grade corn oil out of that. And the protein is a very high quality, high concentration protein that can go into a number of feeds, including aquaculture. So we're utilizing this residual starch stream, which would, otherwise be, it's dilute. So you could, sewer it, kind of waste it, but we're able to utilize that as our feed for our process. And then we go through kind of some fermentation processes and some typical chemical processing to produce our jet fuel. And we also make renewable gasoline. So again, having a very low carbon input, all of the process energy from the plant that we're building out, this 45 million gallon per year plant in South Dakota, the process energy is comes from windmills. So all of the electricity is wind energy. The natural gas is substituted with biogas from a dairy cluster, which we are putting in place in Northwest Iowa. So all of the inputs are low carbon as well. So all of this kind of comes into play, producing a low carbon, a low CI carbon intensity fuel. And if you want to flip to the next slide, I thought I would give just like a quick summary, kind of market dynamics and kind of what's going on in the marketplace. And then just kind of open it up to questions. I mean, this is kind of all I do every day is, talk about sustainable aviation fuel and talk to airlines and oil companies and airports and that sort of thing. So happy to answer questions. But currently, as you can probably imagine, there's not a lot of sustainable aviation fuel being produced globally. There's really only 3 people making it today. There's us, there's World Energy, which is in Los Angeles, and then Neste. So, you know, the supply is constrained. It's growing. Capacity is increasing, you know, not just from us, but from folks, you know, globally. But currently the supply is constrained and the demand is up there, and therefore the pricing, as Kenny mentioned, it's a little bit more expensive, and that's just because, you know, the supply isn't out there, and it's not a real transparent market at this point. What's going to end up happening over the course of the next probably 3 or 4 years, the sustainable aviation fuel will be priced off of renewable diesel. And the reason for that is that anyone that is producing renewable diesel can also produce sustainable aviation fuel. They have to add some equipment and they have to add a little bit of processing steps. So, you know, you can either make renewable diesel or you can make sustainable aviation fuel. And you're certainly not, they're not going to make sustainable aviation fuel and charge less for that than they would for renewable diesel. So renewable diesel is kind of setting the market price, or it will be here in the coming years. The bulk of the contracts that are taking place right now around sustainable aviation fuel, there's not a lot of spot buys that are going on. There's a lot of long-term, larger long-term deals that are taking place. And those are with airlines and oil companies. I mean, we have long-term agreements in place, which has allowed us to expand our plants, by the way. But we have long-term agreements in place with Trafigura, with Delta Airlines, Air Total, Halterman Carless. We have a number, and we're working, my job is working through contracts, and we're working through a number in addition to that. In the US, the way that it is kind of set up right now, in the way that most of the folks are looking at this in the near term, the bulk of the sustainable aviation fuel will be moving to California. And the reason for that is the low carbon fuel standard that California has in place, that it provides a lot of value, well over $1 a gallon, depending on your CI score. But you know, if you're achieving that $1 a gallon in California and you're not in Virginia or Indiana or wherever, it's a large, you know, it's a large enough amount that you're going to push your fuel to California. And so the bulk of the folks that are looking at longer term agreements are looking to uplift that fuel in California. There are a number of states that are looking at LCFS programs similar to California that, you know, would provide a benefit to sustainable aviation fuel, you know, users, producers, that sort of thing. Washington State is in the middle of it right now. New York's working through one. New Mexico is going to come up with one that they're working through. Minnesota, I was on a call today about Minnesota. I know Illinois as well. So there's a number of states that are looking at kind of similar low carbon fuel standard programs like California has in place. Internationally, Corsia, ICAO, I guess I should say, put in place a committee, this Corsia committee a number of years ago, which is essentially a carbon offsetting scheme for international flights. And, you know, it applies to the major airlines. And that program kind of started out it starts out as a voluntary program and then ramps into more of a mandatory program. But what it allows you to do is you don't necessarily have to buy sustainable aviation fuel. You can also buy carbon offsets to comply with the Corsia scheme. And so it's turning out that Corsia compliance cost, you know, isn't a huge driver. So it's not going to be a big driver for these international airlines, international flights. What's going to be the bigger driver are things like what's happening in the EU right now. The EU is in the middle of looking at mandatory blend ratios of sustainable aviation fuel. It's already taken place in several EU member states, but the EU universally is looking at putting that in place. And some of these are pretty hefty compliance costs associated with them. So if you're missing your blend rate or your uplift of sustainable aviation fuel, there could be pretty hefty compliance costs. The tricky thing about the EU is that they kind of have this overall, they have the overall commission, but then the member states can kind of choose to adopt that or not adopt that or make changes or tweaks to it. So you've got all these different sort of compliance things, whereas, it's in the US, it's a little bit more straightforward. But anyway, that's kind of what I had prepared today, just to kind of talk a little bit about how it's produced and why it's low carbon and what happens, and then give you guys a little bit of an understanding of what's kind of happening out in the marketplace. But I'm here, like Mr. Elaine said, my office is, just on the other side of the runway there at Centennial Airport. And, always, I love talking about it and answering questions and working with folks. So always happy to answer questions or talk about this. And if anyone ever wants to shoot me an email or give me a call, happy to talk to them. Great.
So you're an SAF nerd is what you're saying.
Well, it turned out that way.
Good.
So I didn't think about that when I was 10, it just
so when is
turned out this way.
Colorado expected to get their first refinery?
Well, so here's the thing in Colorado, from a feedstock perspective, that's going to be a factor for Colorado for building a refinery within Colorado. The different feedstocks that are kind of largely recognized at this point are, sugar starch type feedstocks like we utilize, and then used cooking oil, HEFA processing, using same thing that they use to produce renewable diesel. So used cooking oil or vegetable oils would be another sort of feedstock. And then there are some companies that are looking to utilize municipal solid waste as their feed. So in Colorado, that trying to do on here, you could move the oils and that sort of thing, I suppose, but then you would just be shipping it back out to California on a large scale. So I don't know. I don't know. It depends on kind of how low carbon fuel standards and that sort of thing play out long term.
Okay, that's your task then. Is you're going to work on that and keep us updated, right?
Trying to get a plant in. I tell you what, it'd be easy for me.
Where is the fuel coming from now? Is it South Dakota that you said?
Yeah, so our fuel right now comes out of Texas, but it will be coming out of Lake Preston, South Dakota. Yeah, that's correct. There's also a refinery. They make renewable diesel, but from time to time they make sustainable aviation fuel. That's World Energy. That's out of Los Angeles. And then Neste imports all of their fuel currently, and they're a big renewable fuel or renewable diesel producer. But they import some SAF into kind of Northern California, and that's being made in Singapore and maybe Amsterdam as well.
Wow.
Is there any drawback with aircraft that have tank heaters, or is it compatible as jet fuel is?
It's totally compatible. Yeah. No, the fuel has been run through the ringer. I actually was on the phone this morning with a very large oil company who is in the process of trying to get their pathway in place. They have this kind of novel approach to producing sustainable aviation fuel. And they were struggling. They got some feedback on the dielectric constant of their fuel with one of the major aircraft producers. I won't say who it is, but and so they were asking, when we went through the process, did the dielectric constant come up? And what that is it's for the probe on wing to tell how much fuel you have on wing for some of these large aircraft. And so anyway, it is so highly scrutinized, this fuel. You ought to feel real good about about the safety and its compatibility. It's gone through the ringer.
Well, something that turned me on to this, or from the compatibilities, and meets all the ASTM standards, but a lot of general aviation manufacturers, Bombardier, Gulfstream, I believe Cessna is also doing this, but they're delivering their new aircraft with SAF. That was my understanding. So that's where, you know, if the pilot comes in and says, what the heck are you doing putting this in my airplane? Well, sorry, but your manufacturer, they did this right. And the manufacturers are on board. That Gamma is on board with this. Yeah, you're right, Chris. This is something that's been in the works in the aviation industry really since 2009, is my understanding. So
That's right.
it's great. All the letter alphabet groups got together, and they worked it from the manufacturer side down to the user. So I think that's brilliant the way they are introducing this. Now we just need to get more refineries. Anyone else have any questions? Mark?
So I think, Chris, you may have answered this question, but you know, you alluded to that you know, at least for the foreseeable future, SAF won't be on par with petroleum-based jet fuel from a pricing perspective. So what's the biggest trigger and driver to driving demand up? Is it the regulatory world that's going to push operators to buy the fuel? You know, I mean, what do you think is the most significant trigger in that regard? Because it does have an economic impact to the operator.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so at the end of the day, I think what is driving this, and it I've been doing this for a long time and really started to see momentum pick up in the last couple of years, kind of pre-pandemic. You know, now that the pandemic has kind of, you know, reset things, but what has happened is that people are recognizing that, look, when I fly, everyone knows when they drive their car, right? You fill up your car with gasoline, you drive it around, you know, you're, you know, emitting carbon into the air and CO2 and greenhouse gases and things like that. But when you hop on a plane, you know, I'm getting on a plane at DIA, I have no idea how much fuel is going on wing, or, you know, how much fuel is my seat worth, and what is the carbon emission associated with my seat? I have no idea. When I always tell the guys when I fly down to like Sydney or something like that, I'm like, guys, I mean, that flight there and back, it's like a year of driving, you know, like, I don't know what it is, but it's like 6 months, you know, 8 months, something like that. And people are starting to recognize this. So I mean, the general consumer is starting to recognize this, and companies. So like corporate clients and their environmental sort of like Microsoft, Nike, you know, these folks are starting to take a look at, wow, we put a lot of people on planes every year. You know, our environmental footprint is, you know, we're having a bit of an issue associated with this. And so they're putting pressure, I mean, like on folks like Delta, like Deloitte did a deal with Delta, you know, so that Delta goes out and buys fuel, sustainable aviation fuel. So I think they're starting to see it from the consumer level, from the corporate level. And then obviously, I mean, Europe tends to kind of always, you know, push ahead, and particularly the Scandinavian countries with mandates. I mean, they're you know, very environmentally sensitive. And so like Norway has mandates in place, Sweden's got mandates coming online. And then the EU is kind of following suits with the Scandinavian countries and starting out with low percentages at 1-2%, and then ramping it up from there.
And is it a way to drive SAF price down just in volume? It's just getting volumes up.
Yeah. Look, definitely the price comes down. It's like, you know, I was joke to folks. I mean, like, you know, we're going to build our first large scale net zero 1 plant, 45 million gallons per year. The second one will come on roughly 6 months after that. The third one roughly 6 months after that. We've got agreements coming down the pipe. But you know, when you look at that size compared to, you know, traditional kind of petro jet, I mean, it's minuscule. Yeah. It's just so small. If a refiner had to build a refinery and, you know, only produce 45 million gallons per year, I mean, the price would be more. It would be. So yeah, it's a scale thing. As the industry begins to scale up, as we get, you know, as these, you know, as the kind of demand has started to grow, supply will start to grow and the price will come down. It'll be, you know, fairly simple economics.
And Ken, to your point, the Business Aviation Coalition for Sustainable Aviation Fuel
has a great
paper that's out on the internet. It's called Fueling the Future. And it shows, both the manufacturers and the operators, their embracement, at least at the general aviation level. And it's a good paper to read, but it absolutely supports everything that Chris has been telling us.
Chip?
This is one of those good news stories that does not get well publicized by our industry. 10 years ago, aircraft compared to what we're producing today burned more fuel and put out more emissions. And the state of the art today is extraordinarily well defined and moving forward rapidly. Same thing with sustained fuels. And yet we do not get this word out to the public. It's internal. We do very well. We talk to corporate, we talk to aviation entities. The manufacturers do this very well, but as far as the general public knows, it's the environmentalists have got the corner on the market and they're saying, bang, 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 you guys gotta, stop flying and doing all these other things that are always in the news. And we, the industry, have got to be able to get the word out better. Gamma and all the other organizations, need to take the lead on this and really be very aggressive in describing the fact that, this fuel alone it produces more power and is lighter in weight. So if I were FedEx, I'd be all over the news saying, hey guys, we can carry more cargo and burn less fuel and emit less than we used to be able to because we're using sustainable fuels. Where's the message?
I agree. I think that's the important thing. And actually it's important to point out, and you just referenced this, Chick, is this is just one of, I believe it's 4 pillars, right, Chris, of this long-term effort to, reduce carbon emissions in aviation. So.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Chaz?
I have a curiosity question, and that is, you've heard of crop waste across the country, especially in 2020 with the restaurants being closed. Is that something that you utilize or is being utilized, or is your carbohydrates that you use very line specific, like you said with your grain?
Yeah, no, we can use it. We certainly can use it right now. There's different kind of things in place to, leave some of that on the field, the crop waste, so to speak. But no, we can use it. We can use cellulosics. We can use woody biomass. I'm pretty sure we're the only company that has ever flown a flight utilizing waste woody biomass. We did that in conjunction with a national lab up in Washington and flew Alaska Airlines flight on fuel made from sticks, like literally waste sticks and trash from the forest. So yeah, I mean there are a number of options. We like to look at these waste streams. I mean, these waste streams are kind of really where we see the future being, is underutilized waste streams that would normally,
Chris, are you only looking in jet fuel, or do you do avgas?
Yeah, so we make octane, so isooctane and jet fuel. And so our isooctane goes into vehicles, regular motor vehicles. Right now, all of it goes to Europe for F1 racing. It's a really high performance fuel, but it can be used in avgas as a blend in avgas. Now, similarly to like we did with our jet fuel, we have to go through an ASTM process. So we're working with the folks at ASTM right now to blend our isooctane in with avgas and take a look at that, because that's another, it's another great story, as you were just alluding to. It's another, great opportunity to be able to utilize a completely renewable isooctane in avgas and just lower the emission profile of, aviation gasoline.
We're going to run into a wall. I mean, literally a wall with avgas, with leaded avgas.
Yes.
The EPA is going to,
yeah,
if we don't have a solution sooner than later, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. And I know the folks at Shell real well, and working with those guys. And it's like, look, I know they're working on a unleaded avgas formulation, and here's an opportunity as well. Like, even if there is lead in it but it's more sustainable, that's a good thing. It doesn't get you all the way there, but it helps, good is, a little bit better is always a good thing. But, I think it'll work in an unleaded formula as well.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Thank you. I would just say,
Great
Mr. Chair,
presentation.
from the staff's perspective, we're excited about this for a couple of reasons. One is a gallon of sustainable fuel gets taxed just like regular jet fuel, so that's great for us.
Right.
But certainly, I think the eligibility of FAA funding for fuel farms is pretty limited. You can do it, but it's pretty limited. But this may be an opportunity for us as a division to help facilitate the infrastructure at fuel farms that might be needed to support this statewide, keeping our fuel flow going, and again, moving up to support the governor and the statewide, larger effort for environmental responsibility and, addressing this on a broader basis. I think it was interesting. I read a note this morning. If you buy a ticket on United Airlines now, you can make a voluntary donation to help them buy sustainable aviation fuel for your flight. So I think, Chick, to your point, you're seeing more public, awareness coming out through the end users of the fuel, which was really cool to see that this morning. So I haven't bought a ticket on United yet. Kind of interesting to see that they're pushing that. So it's great. It's really cool.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Chris, for your time. And,
Yeah, sorry, I took too long.
Oh, that's all right.
Good stuff. It's great stuff.
We won't hold that against you, maybe. So our next update is from Falcon Aero Labs Education Program, Mr. Mark Hyatt.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And
how are you, Mark?
Hey, good to be in the virtual room with you all. And thank you all for serving for all of us on the board. Hey, I just want to take a short time here, hopefully under 10 minutes, to just tell you what we're doing to train up my replacements. I'm almost 69 years old, and my purpose in life now is to train up young people to take my place in the aviation industry. And, I did a career in the Air Force, almost 30 years, and then I was a school superintendent in my second career, and this is kind of a bonus career because I just have to be helping kids catch that aviation bug. So I've got two of our students that just soloed a couple weeks ago, and we've had many others solo too. But if you go to the next slide, I'll just go through this. I'm just going to have the students make a few comments. I know this is busy. Basically, since I understood school finance, I figured out a way that we can do a contract with school districts and charter schools, because that's the only way you can get money from the state is through a school district. And so I have contracts now with several district/charter schools where we provide airplane rides, glider rides, helicopter rides over the Royal Gorge, vertical wind tunnel with STEM lessons near Park Meadows Mall, hot air balloon flights, building radio-controlled airplanes from scratch, building drones from scratch, flying them, crashing them, repairing them, bringing in buddies of mine that are astronauts, engineers, airline pilots of all kinds. Even the TV weather personalities come in and teach our atmospheric science. So that's the middle school, is just a little bit of everything. Next slide. And then the advanced program, you can go to the next one. Yeah, that's just some pictures of the kids doing all the things. And the next one, oh yeah, gotta love iFly. Next one. And yeah, so basically our advanced courses for the high school kids, we have an introductory flight training powered program where they get 12 flights. All of this is paid for by the state. In other words, it's free. And it's paid for with PPR, per pupil revenue, through the schools and the districts. So we got our IFT powered at Meadow Lake, Colorado Springs, Centennial, NOCO. We're just starting up with Boulder and in La Junta. Actually, it's in Pueblo. So we also have an IFT glider program where they get 30 flights. The Meadow Lake based airport gets 30 flights, which is enough to solo on. And our new Boulder IFT glider program is going to be more of an introduction and only get 15 flights because they're just more expensive up there. The guys at Meadow Lake have been working for free, which allows us to get more flights. We also have a space course taught by a retired PhD from the Air Force Academy who ran the astronautical engineering department there. We have an introduction to aviation mechanics to get kids excited about becoming AMPs. We have CAD, computer-aided design. We have a cyber course and advanced drone. Our first graduate, we just started this 4 years ago. Our first graduate from our drone got her FAA Part 107, and she's now, gosh, just turning 18, and she's a professional drone pilot with Angel Hawk, and she's filming football games in Denver, high school football games, and now lacrosse games this time of year. Our first cyber graduate got his ratings and just got hired by a company in Colorado Springs that's serving Schriever Air Force Base, NORAD, Peterson. And as a 19-year-old, he's starting at $65,000 a year. I mean, nothing against college, but there's a lot of things you can do if you want to take a gap year or two in the aviation world. Next one. Okay, and the next one. Next slide. Yeah, next one. I know we're trying to go through this because I know you guys have been in a long meeting. Next one. Okay, Henry, you still here?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, Henry Colian, he's at Gold Charter School, and but he comes to us, and he just soloed 2 weeks ago. What was it like to solo, Henry? I know I wasn't a big day, but just tell us what it felt like and what your instructor was like and everything.
So ever since I was really small, I've been interested in aviation from, like the early Flight Simulator X to X-Plane 11 right now. But my mom found out about Aerolab and really helped me get involved with it. So my instructor, Chris Walker, who's a former naval pilot, has really been helping me progress in a fast pace through the program while still understanding everything about, flying and the community of flying. So after, I think 14 hours, I soloed in the 150 out of Meadow Lake. And it was an experience. I thought that I would be, really scared and not wanting to do it. But once I really got in the plane, started up and actually finished the run up, I was ready to just, get in the air and do some pattern work. So I got one pattern done because of weather. We had some problems with that. But I mean, all in all, it was a really cool experience that has really helped me progress through what I'm accomplishing. So yeah.
Thank you, Henry. What's your goal? Do you want to be a airline?
So my goal is to become an airline pilot, probably flying 7.5s or 7.6s. Yeah.
I love it. Well
so,
done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're going to help you get there. Next slide. Thank you, Henry, for hanging in there. Ella Hurley, she soloed at 14 in a glider and just soloed a couple of weeks ago with her instructor.
Now that's a real pilot right there in the glider.
Yeah. Okay. So Ella, tell us about your journey here with Aerolab. You've been, Henry's only been with us for a year. You've been with us since the very first day 4 years ago. What's it like?
Yeah. So I've been a part of the program since I was 12, was one of the original 13 students. And so that was the level 1A course that Mr. Hyatt had briefly touched on. And so I got to try out all sorts of different aviation related fields and experiences, and I had a great time. But I absolutely loved my discovery flight. That was just so much fun for me. I was bitten by the bug from then on. As soon as the wheels left the pavement, I knew that was something I wanted to continue doing. And so the following year, I did the glider program and had an amazing time. I ended up soloing when I was 14. It was, I believe, the 2nd anniversary of D-Day whenever I soloed. So very important historical day. Then got to be really fun for me when I got to solo. So that was super cool. I had a great time in the glider program, just amazing, top-notch instructors. You can't find better guys to teach you to fly. So it was super fun, had a great time. And then the past 2 years, I've been flying with the powered program, and that's been so much fun too. I thought there was nothing better than flying gliders, and then they stuck an engine in there. It was even more fun. So that's been super great. Again, just amazing instructors. Couple with a retired F-16 pilot. So, just amazing people. I soloed on March 19th in the powered airplane, and that was also really fun. Like Henry was saying, it's kind of nervous at first, and then you get going and you're like, this is something I've done before. This is something I can remember doing. My dad was talking about the day, and he said if she could have stayed up there, I think she would have, and it's definitely the case. I would have kept flying if everybody wasn't telling me I had to come back. Yeah, so that was fantastic, and I'm continuing to work towards my private pilot's license. Actually, when I was getting the medical to go solo, I met Dr. Limoges, and I've always been interested in medicine, and so it's kind of cool to see those two worlds collide. You get the medicine and the aviation combined, so that was a very cool experience too. So I can't say enough good things about the airline program. I mean, I owe so much to them and Mr. Hyatt and everything they do, all the amazing people that are part of it, and just the experiences that I never would have known that I liked flying if it hadn't been for them. And now it's such a huge part of my life and a huge passion of mine, and it's something I never would have known about if it weren't for these amazing people and this amazing program. And I think
Thank
I
you,
speak
Ella.
for I
Thank you.
think I speak for a lot of Air Lab students when I say that. It's just
Yeah. Thank you. You know, Ella came to me and she said, "Hey, Mr. Hyatt, should I become an airline pilot or a physician?" Because she's very interested in going to med school. And I said, "How about if you become an airline pilot, then you can buy your own airplane, or you could become an FAA flight doc and give us our flight physicals." So she's now in an internship with Dr. Paul Sherry, who's a leading cardiologist in the Pikes Peak region, and she's seeing patients with him. So she'll probably be giving you your physical someday. Next slide.
That's great. Congratulations, Ella Henry.
I remember your scholarship application for women in aviation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just keep yourself out there, keep doing what you're doing. Show up. Showing up is the first step. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep talking.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I know our time is up, but is there the next slide, or is that it? Okay, good. Hey, now you can see I'm having so much fun at almost 69 years old because I get to help these young people. So I just wanted to share with you what we're doing. Thank you, Mr. Chair and David, for letting us be part of your presentation today.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hyatt. And then hearing your students, Ella and Henry, I think we're all enthusiastic too again. So this is great. Thank you. What a great presentation. And congratulations.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the last we'll see of you.
No, hope not.
Okay. Our final industry update from the Aspen Flight Academy High School program is Mr. Michael Pierce. Are you with us? Mute button off. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Aspen Flight Academy High School.
List.
Yeah, I still have him on there.
Is he here? Mute button off? Maybe he stepped away for a second.
Maybe we could circle back.
Yeah,
to him.
let's circle back and let's go to, oh man, I don't know if we're ready for this one. The remote tower update, Mr. Bill Payne.
Well, good afternoon, board. I'll tell you what, it's really great to see y'all in person. Although some of you, I think, could use a little improvement. Anyway, on the remote tower front, as you can imagine, with everything else, we've been hit with the COVID situation. So we've been doing some remote testing, which we proposed to the FAA several months ago. That has been successful partially in being able to do some of our validation and evaluation of our system at Fort Collins. Unfortunately, the subject matter experts at the FAA can't travel because of COVID, right? And so they are their travel restrictions are what's holding us back at this point. The other problem we have is that I'm trying to convince them that we need to go into a remote testing program a little more, I guess, little harder than we are now. I've suggested that we use local resources from the Tracon and from Denver Center and from the tower here. Unfortunately, I'm getting some pushback from air traffic. Air traffic is they want their own SME subject matter experts here. I can understand that, but as I told them, what are we going to do when COVID-20 comes or COVID-22 or the variants or whatever? I said, we need to be able to develop a way in which we can do this testing. I've sent them several proposals on how to do it. And we're getting some traction. I had a conversation the other day with the FAA COO discussing this issue, and she's going to carry some of the water for us. Secondarily, right now we're restarting our testing program, so hopefully we'll be able to get going. The FAA has a program for the prioritization of programs, and I've asked us to be moved up forward. As you can imagine, this is not as key as some of the FAA projects. However, it is more innovative than some of them, I think. We're going to end up putting the STARS system in the mobile tower, the standard automation replacement system. That's the radar system that's used at Denver Tracon. We're putting that in the mobile air traffic control tower because they're having some real issues seeing the aircraft. That's not surprising because a mobile tower has got a cab eye height of about 9.5 feet, whereas normal air traffic control tower, 60, 70, 80. Hell, if you're out at not front range, but Colorado Spaceport and All Night Welding Shop. If you're out there, that's a tall tower. So we're having some issues. They didn't have this same issue at Leesburg, which is the other remote tower project, primarily because they have a little baby runway. They had little baby runways because of the density altitude. Here we've got sure enough runways, right? Yeah. Long, and that's given us some problems. But we're putting that STARS in for those issues. Another thing that's occurring is Fort Collins, the Northern Colorado Regional Airport, is doing an apron expansion program for their terminal. We're going to have to relocate the mobile tower. We're in the process right now going through that process. We're trying to move forward to do our phase 1 in-person testing in July of this year. We have our fingers crossed that we'll be able to make that work. It's all dependent upon the FAA's willingness to commit to sending resources here or allowing us to use local resources to fulfill those ideas. So if there are any questions or comments or anything else, I'll be glad to entertain them at this time. And otherwise, I will say adieu, goodbye, whatever.
Any questions, board?
I think the comment from Jason earlier about the fact that he's had 91,000 aircraft operations in the last calendar year, just during the time the tower is open, which is not obviously 24/7, is remarkable and just underscores the need for us to keep pressing FAA to get back on track with the testing. And they've been a little bit reticent to do so, but Bill and I are going to keep harping on them. And we may need to escalate that to get them a little out of their comfort zone and back on track sooner rather than later as things start to open up. And we understand the sensitivities of travel and COVID, but we need to get this going. It's been languishing way too long. So,
well, I understand it's the favoring, because it's such a new program, having the subject matter experts. But I don't know, when you were saying that, I'm thinking, man, what a amazing training opportunity would, you have 4 towers in the metro area and cycling, just even getting the different perspectives and utilizing that equipment and having these professionals, getting some training hours. I mean, I just think they would be excited to go through that program. So, but that's just how it is.
What really gets me to wax philosophical here just a second is I don't understand why this is a paradigm shifting program we have here.
Right.
I mean, Europe is moving forward at a very fast pace, but we're sitting here with our feet in the mud.
Right.
I mean, I
It's
don't-
amazing. Yeah.
You don't want to get me started. Maybe.
Well, we'll have some
maybe
beers
after the
afterwards.
meeting,
Okay, Bill?
maybe
Okay.
adult beverages.
There you go. Okay. Thank you for the update, Bill. That's great. Keep on it. If you need any help from us, happy to help you. Let's go into our number 12 legislative issues. Dave, did you want to?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any legislative issues to share with you other than what Kelly Sloan, he kind of stole my thunder, gave you a good update on what was going on. at
Yeah,
the state
Kelly did a
level.
good
We'll look
job.
Forward to meeting with the new leaders of the House GA caucus next week. But again, I would reiterate that the reason we were just able to approve $2 million worth of grants is because of the American Rescue Plan that
Yep.
provided for that 100% AIP match that you all advocated for in your resolution back in January. So that came
Excellent.
to fruition and that was good for us. So that was it.
That's very good. Our final action item, number 13, the CAB governance document update.
Just a simple administrative update to our CAB governance docs, Mr. Chair, to reflect the addition of Charles Tedesco as our new Eastern Plains representative. No changes to the document itself.
Excellent. I would say
Need a
then
motion and a-
need a motion to approve the CAB governance document.
I want to motion this one.
All right. Motion by George, second.
Check.
Chick. Any discussion? Great work.
In all seriousness, welcome, Commissioner. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we have our new governance document. Congratulations. Okay, let's look at, want to circle back before we do the proposed calendar. Is Michael Pierce on with us?
I'm not sure what happened there, Mr. Chair. We'll get him back for another meeting, but
Yeah.
they've got a fantastic program at the Aspen-Pickett County Airport in conjunction with the Aspen School District there that basically gives almost every student in the school district the opportunity to take an orientation flight at no cost. They've got a great partnership with Diamond Aircraft. They've got some very state-of-the-art DA-40s. You see a couple of them there. They've got a very robust program that I think is really unique, and we'll get Michael back maybe in Telluride to brief us on it because you'll be incredibly impressed with what he has been able to do. And again, like Mark, he's got another job. He's an airline pilot for Delta, and he's doing this out of the love of his heart and the desire to create the next generation of people that we need for our industry. So very cool things going on up at Aspen. So we'll look forward to having him back.
That's great. Great. Okay, why don't you review the new calendar updates?
Again, just kind of a rehash. We've covered this before, Mr. Chair, but Thursday, June 10th at 1:00 p.m. will be our general board meeting in conjunction with the spring CIOA conference. So again, if you fill out your travel and plan survey and get those to Caitlin, we'd appreciate that. Tuesday, August 24th from 9 a.m. to 4 at our offices out at Air and Spaceport, our CAB staff workshop. And then we learned a couple years ago that trying to do that and the CAB meeting in one day was too much for all of us. So we split that up. We'll do for those traveling from out of town, we'll do the board meeting first thing the next morning on the 25th, allow people to get back. So that's our calendar for the next several months, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, finally, any other matters by the public or members of our board?
I do know we had Angela Padalecki, the airport director in Grand Junction, was hopefully still on the phone. She wanted to chat with us. Angela, I don't know if you're still there or not. I know she was in and out of meetings. She was texting me while we were here. Okay, well, anyway, they've got great things going on, as you heard, with new air service, and
she's on.
Oh, she is on. Okay.
I'm sorry, Dave. I was having issues with getting unmuted, so here I can turn my video on too.
We hear you, Angela.
So much. Yeah, I waited, so I want to make sure I get to thank the board so much for the grant that you approved. I know that this feels like routine for the activities you complete, but for an airport like ours and a grant like this for the rehab of 422, our secondary runway, it's a really big deal. And so I just wanted to thank the board and thank the staff at CDOT for their partnership and their help. This is a huge win and something we're really excited about for our general aviation community in particular, because that runway is heavily used, but it is not AIP eligible. And so it's really hard for us to come up with enough funding to keep it in good shape. So thank you.
Well, it's our pleasure, and congratulations on your outstanding success, Angela. There are a lot of great things going on there. So we're very happy for you.
Well, thank you.
Any questions of Angela? Okay. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and stand adjourned. Sorry about the 1 hour meeting, Caitlin, that I promised you. All right. Well, thank you all for coming, and it's really great to see you all and touch elbows. And
That's right.